Well, the sycophantic hashtag I stand with Trudeau crowd is out in full force on Twitter today, which can only mean one thing. Things are going very, very, very badly for Justin Trudeau. It's funny how those people only ever decide that they stand with Trudeau every single time terrible news comes out. It's never like, Justin Trudeau saves a puppy or, Justin Trudeau lowers the cost of living for Canadians and they're tweeting, I stand with Trudeau. It's only when he's done something terrible in terms of like generating a new scandal or his polling numbers collapsing or a bunch of economic data coming out that shows Trudeau's an incompetent prime minister. But whatever, it's fine. It's always a great sign that they're losing whenever they start tweeting "I stand with Trudeau" all over Twitter. I guess it's called X these days. But it cannot be overstated just how bad the polling is for Justin Trudeau. I hinted at it yesterday when we had not yet seen the Abacus data poll come out, but today not only did the Abacus data poll come out, it just so happens that it's Christmas in August, because we also got a poll out from mainstream research that was even better than the Abacus data one. And the Abacus data one shows that the Conservative Party is up 12 points on the Liberals. That's crazy. Like, we thought it was a little bit nuts and it might be outlier polls back in the day when we saw polls coming out showing the Conservatives up 9 or 10% last month. And now they're up 12%. And this mainstream research poll shows that the Conservatives are actually punching past 40%. They're at 41% in the polls, and the Liberals are down at 28. And what's hilarious about this mainstream research poll is not only are the Conservatives up 7 points from what they had in 2021, but the Liberals are down and the NDP is down. So it's not like the lefty voters don't kind of know where to go. They just don't like any of the lefty parties. Jagmeet Singh is not a reliable place to put your vote if you don't like Justin Trudeau, because they're effectively just the same option. Just Jagmeet Singh is somehow even more irritating than Justin Trudeau is, because at least usually Justin Trudeau is not on social media all day long the way Jagmeet Singh is. And I think the key here and the sort of like the root cause for why we're seeing this big turn on Trudeau is not just that, conservative voters or people in the middle are turning on him. I think that Liberal Party, like the liberal voters and NDP voters, are just kind of disconnecting from politics for a while, because I don't think you could have gone this many years seeing this many policy failures and scandals and keep concluding, like, if we give Trudeau another 4 years or so, it's going to suddenly turn around. We just got to wait until the policy outcomes are super bad, and then somehow they're going to break through the other side and everything's going to be hunky-dory and it's going to be utopia. And what I'm basing this off of is one of the polling results that came out of the Abacus poll, which is like the one that's actually somehow easier on the Liberals. But this was pretty stunning, this result that showed that out of Liberal voters from 2021, only 52% of them actually want to see Justin Trudeau run for prime minister again. They do not want him leading the Liberal Party anymore. So like that's 48% of people who either want him to step down or are not sure. And it actually leans for those 48%. Most of them want him to step down. Like, of course, all Canadians want Justin Trudeau to step down. In Canadian politics, sometimes those polls showing, Poilievre's unpopular. Poilievre has like a net negative rating of 5 or whatever. It doesn't really matter. He's an oppositional party leader. Not many people know who he is. And it's such a divided country in terms of all the different political affiliations. It's really hard to be a positively approved of politician. But usually it's easier for the prime minister, because even if you vote Green or Liberal or even Conservative or NDP, you're going to say, yeah, I don't mind the prime minister. I vote for the policies I prefer in the Greens or the NDP or the Conservatives, but whoever my prime minister isn't doing too bad of a job. So you'd have seen that happen a lot with, lefty type voters. When Ralph Klein was the premier, you'd have had a lot of people begrudgingly say they actually think he's doing a decent job. And same thing with conservative voters when Chrétien was around. You'd probably have a lot of people say, yeah, I don't agree with him on all the issues, but I like that he was cutting wasteful spending. With Justin Trudeau, though, from this Abacus data poll, he's literally at the most unpopular point he's ever been at. And this is including times like SNC-Lavalin and the We Charity scandal and the trucker convoy. He has a disapproval rating of 53% and only 29% of people who approve of him. And based on the polls that have been coming out, that effectively means unless you're voting for him, you have nothing good to say about him. And that's a very dangerous place to be in Canadian politics, because that means you don't have any room to grow. Because although people like to pretend that parties are the party brands, it's the policies that people come together at AGM and drink terrible coffee and eat bad donuts and pass, and that's what Canadians are voting for. Oftentimes people are voting for the leader. They're voting for the kind of attitude they give off. And that's frankly why I think Trudeau beat Harper back in 2015, even though Harper's objectively the better leader between the two men. Justin Trudeau kind of had that sunny ways positivity that I think got a lot of people on board without really thinking about his claims about deficits and whatnot. They're very troubling. They just like the fact that he seemed sunnier, whereas Harper was very kind of insular and a little bit more, awkward. And I'm not saying that as an insult as an awkward person myself, but that's just the impression that people had. But back in 2019 and 21, you were having Trudeau with an approval rating of around 35%, maybe even 40% sometimes. And while he was only scoring around 35% of the vote, there was what allowed him to punch up to that 35%. What's brought him down to 28% is he had that kind of area of the populace who was willing to vote for him that he was able to sort of grab votes out of. Whereas these days, he only has about 29% of people who actually like him, and he's only capturing about 28% of the vote. So his wiggle room here is effectively 1%, unless he can maybe get some self-hating NDP voters to switch over just because they're scared of Pierre Poilievre. And really, I don't really believe any of the stupid propaganda that comes out of the Toronto Star and all the other sort of legacy media papers claiming that Canadians are somehow scared of Pierre Poilievre and he's from the extreme right because whatever. It's just nonsense. I don't even want to justify the way that they the way that they argue this. It's silly, but I just want to look at a couple more things in terms of these polls, because it's not even just that Trudeau doesn't have a lot of room to grow right here. It's that he's also just behind in every demographic right now. In between literally no age group, 18 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 59, and 16 over, Trudeau is decisively behind. I think the smallest gap they have is 9 points behind the Conservatives, I believe here. I'm just trying to make sure. Yeah, no, it's literally the smallest gap behind the Conservatives is 60 plus voters. And contrary to popular belief, because Democrats in the U.S. tend to have a very younger sort of crowd that votes for them. In Canada, the Liberal Party's base has always been older voters because the NDP is the party that captures the more left-wing younger voters. And when the Liberals are behind in both older voters and women, that's when you have to be deciding whether or not you're going to move on to a new leader. But as I said in my last video, the problem for the Liberal Party is that while around 48% of voters are very unsure or do not want to vote for the Liberal Party, who if Justin Trudeau remains as the prime ministerial candidate for the party, there is an equal number of people who probably leave the party if Justin Trudeau stops being the leader, because as we see on Twitter, the hashtag I stand for Trudeau cult, as pathetic and silly as they are a force. And the problem with having one of these rabid forces with you is it prevents the party from ever making any changes or admitting to any mistakes. Because I think if Justin Trudeau actually started admitting to policy failures and then saying, and this is what I'm going to do to make up for it, his popularity would probably spike by 10%. But because his party is incentivized to never admit to any mistakes, because there is this TrueAnon cult who thinks that everything that the Liberal Party does is secretly amazing, they can't actually move away. Oh, and before I wrap this up, here's another thing I just remembered I want to talk about quickly between the Abacus data poll and the Main Street poll. This is the reason why I think, and I'll flash them up on screen here. This is the Abacus data poll first. The reason I trust the Main Street poll, even though I usually like Abacus data a little bit better, is because Main Street, which is now on screen, has the PPC down to only 3%, where Abacus has them at 2%. They have the PPC losing more of a vote. I do not see the PPC in 2025 being a force at all. I voted PPC in 2021. I voted Conservative in 2019. I have nothing against the PPC. Although I do have things against the PPC. I mean in terms of principles. I don't mind the sorts of things that many of their advocates are in favor of. But the reason I do not think that they're going to be a force is, one, I think Poilievre has very much taken back a lot of the support from the PPC. And although PPC voters tend to be the type of people who will answer any phone poll and tell you how much they like the PPC, they've never grown as a party in terms of infrastructure. I'm living in a riding right now that, yes, the PPC is not going to win the riding. They don't really have a chance of winning any riding past Bernier's riding back in 2019 and 2021, which he neglected to do. But in my riding, they should be able to pull off 5, 6, 7, 8%. And they've underperformed in this riding because they've never developed on the ground infrastructure. So while Justin Trudeau is having to deal with a Green Party that's actually going to have more teeth to it in this election, because they had Anime Paul, who was actually a good leader for the Green Party back in 2021, because she's Jewish and the Green Party has a deeply ingrained anti-Semitism problem. They actually didn't field a full third of the candidates. They only had 2/3 of candidates, which meant that they didn't seem like a viable vehicle to most voters. That heavily suppress their votes. And Aaron O'Toole was running for the Conservatives, which pushed a lot of voters towards the PPC or kept Conservative voters home. This year, Justin Trudeau is going to have to deal with a Green Party that has Elizabeth May back in the helm, which is what usually brings the party its popularity. And they're having to deal with, and Poilievre's only having to deal with a PPC that's obviously floundering from lack of leadership and real growth within the PPC. So I think that the Conservative Party, as long as they actually stay the course and they start speaking to the issues that Canadians want to hear about that they haven't heard people talk about, like parental rights, actually cutting waste in government and making substantial reforms on government programs and social services, they will remain as high as they currently are right now. If they start trying to pull back into the Aaron O'Toole turtling kind of tactics of just assuming that, hey, we're ahead, now let's just basically slowly turn into the Liberals to grab up moderate votes, you're going to lose the election. Canadians are not stupid, and if you're just trying to be slightly to the right of the Liberals, no one's going to show up. But anyways, that's it for me today. If you can donate to my legal fund that I've linked to the description below, that can help me out a lot. I have a Chinese billionaire suing me. I'm currently winning the case right now. My lawyer's fantastic, so all the donations are going towards a good cause. And make sure to sign up for the National Telegraph's emails, also linked in the description below, so you can get our sort of content sent directly to you, whether it's our videos or it's our written content that's been heavily curbed in terms of its distribution because of the Liberals' Bill C-18. But other than that, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and share this video, and have a great day.